Welcome back, designers and artists. We're going to go ahead and move forward with our transform effects. So we got our document set up with our basic shapes. But before I begin, what I'm going to recommend is I have the document where you're going to try the specific effects and dimensions that I put in for the transform effects. But before we get started, I'm going to unlock this layer. I'm going to zoom out here for a second. And what I would recommend is grab your artboard tool and take this entire layer before we start doing the transform effects. You can hold down the Alt key and you can drag this over and you get another copy of both of those layers so that after you try the ones that I have established, you can go back to the second sheet that's already ready to go and you can try some new effects, some ones that, explore your own dimensions and try things. You'll see how it works. So that's ready to go for you. So that's really nice and easy. I'm going to lock that layer back out and go back in here and let's dive in and get started. So I have some very specific dimensions for you to put in or numbers for you to put in for this. So let's try this first one here. I'm going to grab this square. I'm going to go over to properties. And then again, you can kind of look at my instruction sheet here. But what we're going to do basically is select each one of these shapes, click on effects. I'm going to go in effects up to distort and transform. I'm going to hit transform. And this is where all the magic happens, this transform window. So you've got scale, you've got move, you've got rotate, you've got some different options down here, and then this is kind of the key is the number of copies. So I think a lot of these default to 50, but you can kind of experiment. So if I put in 50 here, and make sure preview is checked, if I do 50, really nothing's happening right now because I haven't changed anything here. If I just start moving scale, let's move scale down to like 87%. So the horizontal scale of this rectangle is going to be 87% of the original size each time it makes a copy. If I sync up the horizontal, pretty close, hard to get in there exactly, now it's going to proportionally, again, 87% of the size each time it goes in. So you can kind of see how that works. The move one will actually move the center point. So I do use that on occasion. I think on the triangle one, we had to move it a couple pixels to recenter it every time, but that will physically move the center point of your, either vertical or horizontal of your image. But I'm going to reset those to 0 because I don't want that for this one. And again, these are all things you can play around with, but I'm going to put in my specific dimensions here in a minute. And then the angle means every time you make a copy, it's going to, rotate it this amount of degrees. So 29 degrees, or, if I go up to, let's say 90, 90, each time it is going to make it 87% smaller and rotate it 90 degrees, which with a rectangle or a square doesn't really help too much. So if I did 45, that's going to make a lot more sense right there. Okay, so those are the basic options here, and I'm just going to note this one more down here, the scale and stroke effects. So when you click this, each time it's shrinking down in scale, this is going to automatically also scale down the stroke of the shape that you've made there. So this is a nice option. I click on this a lot of the time, but again, you can kind of experiment and see how that works for you. So let's go ahead and put in the specific numbers that I have set up for this. So I'm going to do 90, and then if you hit tab, 90, I'm going to skip these two. And then for my degrees here, I have 6 degrees. So I do that, and that creates that rotation of about 6 degrees and seems to line it up pretty well. And then everything else is the same. I have 50 copies, but again, if I hold down the arrow key, you can kind of see how that will kind of add or subtract copies to it to get the different effects that you want. So that's the transform menu here. You can, experiment with that. I have the specific dimensions put in for each one of these for shapes. So I'd say start with that, kind of see how that works. Hit OK. And then once you get the hang of it, you can move on and try some of your own effects. I'm going to go in and do one more here with you. So I'll go ahead and try this circle one. And again, just to see what this kind of looks like over here, I have this effect right here on it. So let's try this one more, and then I'll let you guys check it out on your own. So I'm going to hit effects, select it, hit effects, go back up to transform and distort and transform. And then the dimensions that I have for this one, I have 99, so it's almost the same size horizontally. And then vertically, we're going to go to 80, so it's going to shrink it in here. I'm going to leave these two at 0. I'm going to go down here to the angle rotation to 20, and it does that. And then of course I've got to put my copies in here. So again, I think I did 50 copies. You click back on something, you can see that preview there. So you can kind of see how it works. Again, you can experiment with it and see how subtle changes will kind of make things a little bit different, but it's pretty fun to experiment with there. So I'm going to hit OK on that. And there we go. So go ahead and finish up this little practice worksheet here and try some of the different options that I have on this. And then you've got a second copy over here. This one is fair game for you to go experiment, try whatever you want. And again, feel free to make a new sheet, try different shapes, try different transform effects. They're all going to be in this menu right here. Whoops, when you hit the effects menu and go up, hit that distort and transform, do the transform one, and see what you can create. All right, go out there and have some fun, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.